Welcome to the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast. We want to thank you for taking time to join us this evening. I am Stephen Smith, and I have a special guest with me this evening, Jon Kirwin, Coach Jon Kirwin. It's going to be an interesting broadcast tonight. I'm going to ask you to certainly stick with us. Don't leave, because if you do, you're going to miss something that might be very important, and we don't want that to happen. But we hope that you're doing well today. It is Monday. I'm glad to be here. And I want to tell you a little bit about our special guest this evening. Jon Kirwin is a health coach. He's also a fitness trainer, and he's a beacon of hope and health to help people thrive. He teaches them how to take care of themselves from a health and wellness standpoint. Jon's always been passionate about helping other people. He decided to follow that passion into his purpose. His plan is to impact the world one healthy person and one healthy habit at a time. Jon is a former IT nerd. He was in the healthcare industry, and he calls it his Clark Kent job. Now, however, his Superman role is getting people off of medications and offering them a healthy lifestyle. And without further ado, I love to bring in Jon to the studio. Welcome, Jon. How are you doing this evening?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So you're up in Chicagoland.
I am. Yeah, but it's actually I've been here now for like almost 22 years, so I call it home, I guess.
That's a long time. I call it home after 22 years too, as well. Well, I want to let the viewers know that I came across you on a video with Tamara L. Hunter. She's with the Chemo Buddies for Life nonprofit foundation, the foundation that helps people through connections that might be suffering either from loss of a loved one from cancer or cancer patients. And a great organization. I certainly support them. I've been involved with them for some time now. But I saw you on an interview, Jon, with Tamara, and I was really impressed. You were on the Service Heroes show, and so I'd love for you to maybe just start by telling the viewers a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then lead to, okay, you were a service hero. Well, that's for a reason, and of course, the town hall Get to Know is all about people making a positive impact in their communities. And so clearly that's why you were there. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jon.
So, long story short, I grew up always having this idea in my mind. I guess it's actually through my personality. I've always actually like been driven to actually help people, but I didn't have a specific area to actually figure out where that was going to be. But I was serving people. I was actually like, I started working for, the dietary in an old folks home. I was actually doing a lot of volunteer work when I was younger. But I just didn't have that avenue to actually, or the confidence to actually like pursue that as actually a career. It was just basically like kind of being directed towards me. But I also actually like, started to, get into that whole mindset of like, oh, well, I need to take care of myself. I need to actually like, find a job, find a career that's actually going to provide for me and possibly my family in the future. And so I kind of pursued IT. One of the things that's actually really interesting about IT is that I guess my purpose was always there. It was always being that person that would actually learn something and then share with everybody else, because I want to bring people with me as opposed to actually like isolating myself. And, for over 20 years, I've been basically acting as Clark Kent in my IT career. I've been, always being willing as a team player to actually like learn everything I can. Feeling like I actually have that passion of knowing that I can train somebody to actually do something effective. And, long story short, I've been doing this IT stuff, but there was some sort of itch. There was like an itch on my back that I couldn't actually scratch, and it just kept actually itching. And I just felt like I needed to do something that was actually more meaningful. Instead of actually doing it for a corporation and helping a business, I wanted to basically help people. But I didn't know, and I had the fear of stepping away from something that I was really comfortable with, which was a skill set that I had. But at the end of the day, my heart was actually in it. And I'm still an IT nerd. Like, I still act as my Clark Kent. I'm basically that's something that's a skill set that I will actually utilize as much as I can. And hopefully that technology will move into, what I'm doing right now, which is really focusing on helping people. And so all of a sudden, I gravitated towards an opportunity where I saw somebody who is actually like doing something that's actually like really beneficial towards other people. And I've always been a fitness trainer on the side, but I never could give myself to the ability to move forward into that and take a step back from what I was actually comfortable with. So it's always been there to actually help people. And then all of a sudden I had this opportunity to actually explore nutrition. And I was really inspired by that, by actually understanding that as a fitness trainer, this is one of the things that actually I couldn't do, which was frowned upon, which is, not offering the actual advice that the person that is actually seeking advice, that wants to have that confidence again, to offer the solution to that or a desired result for that. And so I left the fitness industry specifically just because I wanted to focus on what was the most important. And how ironic that in the last 3 years, health has actually been a main focus on topics of obesogenic disorder. Lots of people are suffering from diabetes. Healthcare industry keeps actually raising premiums. People are getting more sick. People are actually getting more overweight, more stressed out. There's lots more people who are actually very in an unhealthy mental state. And I had no idea what I got myself into, but at the same time, I was so happy to find my purpose. And that purpose was basically to help and serve people in my local community. And I'm always been a guy that's actually an extrovert. So I'm always talking about what I can do for people. What can I actually help you with? And then now I have an avenue of servitude to actually help other people with this opportunity to change the direction in their life so that they're not actually suffering at areas and times when they don't want to suffer because they worked really hard for that. And then all of a sudden it's like you see people who are actually getting ready to retire and they're not looking at retirement as actually an option. They're looking that they have to work the rest of their life. They're stressed out already, right? So giving them the ability to actually take care of themselves at the same time and having somebody like myself to support them, or the team of people that I've been actually working with to support them because they believe in the same thing, has just been phenomenal in terms of my overall confidence in the world, how there are so many great people out there. Because as soon as I actually started to be vulnerable and willing to actually step out of my comfort zone and get into action, I have been surrounding myself with you, Stephen. I've been surrounding myself and introduced to Tamara Hunter, and all these other influential people that have actually been moving mountains in regards to actually making an impact in this world. And I just gravitate towards that now. It's like, yeah. So it's like, this doesn't feel like work to me, even though it is a lot of work, because it's actually a responsibility of helping people actually understand what it takes to actually get there. But it's so much easier when you're actually somebody who wants to do that and serve that person, understanding that there's a struggle and they can actually come and break through those little walls that they have to learn that their greatest strength was behind the biggest struggle. And it's just been a really joy for me. And I continue to see it actually like continue to be better. Not just from, I use this methodology. I use, if I can change one person with how I actually how I can reach out to people, then I'm doing my job. And then if that one person can actually do the exact same thing, this world can change. That's my firm belief.
Well, exponentially, it will change. And it's not so much about quantity, I feel, as it is about quality. And I know for myself, when we touch one person and they let us know, it's like, that is the best feeling in the universe, to know that you've helped somebody get healthier, happier, and start enjoying life like they weren't before. That's a great thing. And I saw that. Now, what was the thing, your epiphany moment when you decided, okay, I'm going to just change this? I know you kind of referred to that earlier when you were speaking, but what was that thing that just clicked? And it's just like, okay, I'm going to turn my passion into my purpose now?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting because when I was younger, I've always been really skinny, and it was an insecurity of mine. I'm a pale white guy. I have red hair. I always had this insecurity of actually like not feeling like I fit in. I had this fear of rejection. I had this fear of actually like people weren't going to listen to me or, you know, pay attention to what I could actually offer. And that was holding me back because even now in, you know, like a few years ago, I had a conversation with an old friend, and he basically said, I think you just don't value yourself as much as you really actually bring to the table. And I didn't understand that, but he was basically saying you need to break through your own obstacle, which is yourself. And so it's funny because this journey doesn't end, you know, now, and it won't end tomorrow, and it won't end, you know, months from now, but it's began when I was younger, and it's been continuously going through all these different motions. And through that, I just keep actually growing as a person. As an individual, I've been able to actually like realize that like, you know, through my greatest strength, or the greatest strength that I actually had, was accepting who I was, and knowing that I'm that's a beautiful thing, and I'm unique in this world, and I have a purpose, and I have a story that's actually powerful enough. And I think that actually resonates with people that I actually serve, because I tell them the same thing. Your story is just as powerful, if not more powerful and influential in this world, if you give it and you share it. So in essence, when you're actually in this position of helping people, you're actually putting yourself in a vulnerable state, which ultimately is a growing aspect of your life. Because for me, it's like now I'm just putting myself in the most vulnerable positions as much as I can, because I did have a awesome, like, I think it was like my late 20s, right? I felt like I was actually in the best shape of my life. I was actually able to transform a skinny body to a body that I felt really proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 41 now, and I feel I have more energy than I did when I was younger. I have more energy and more driven habits that actually are carrying me sustainably. And I didn't have that back then. I followed a specific, guidance of a coach who told me A, B, and C, and D, but I didn't learn what I needed to do to sustain that. And so I became complacent. So, so being a coach, yeah, go ahead.
That I just want to say, you hit that word. That's a word for me for sure, is complacency, because I've been in the same spot. Yeah. And what I found is that when I got complacent, I got very comfortable. And then the next thing I know, I'd be doing things that I really shouldn't be doing, is what happened, and making, in my case, some poor choices. But I think it's that comfort zone, not stepping maybe into some fear, not really taking a chance to learn and grow, because in complacency and comfort, we're not learning or growing, I don't feel, to our ability to, really achieve something unique and special. Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful that, that you took, like you said, your personal pain, right? Mm-hmm. From your pain came your growth. And now you're able to share that and help others because of that. That's a beautiful thing, John. I'm very, I'm very proud of you and inspired as well. That's why I reached out to you and said, hey, we got to have you, because I love your spirit. Now, I know that you talk about your Clark Kent job being in IT, and but what I want to know, and we'll thank Tamara for this because she kept on talking about this stuff. What is your superpower, Jon Kirwin? Tell the viewers, what is your superpower now?
Love more, right? And I mean, this is just for today's message. It's like, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, the word of the day. This is a really clear message of what my personality is. I love more. I don't adjust for people. They will adjust. I need to actually own my own narrative. I need to basically feel confident in this own body that I've been given. I need to basically just be able to live life. But the thing that I need to actually understand is I was given a gift to be in this world. And as much as people, take that for granted, and then most of us are actually suffering and not living our best version of ourselves, we owe it to ourselves to actually like try to give that a chance, because we have no practice life. This is not a practice life. We don't have that ability to do that. And I was actually, saying to myself, like, one of the things that I feel that has actually like been a blessing to be who I am is I just have an abundance of heart for people. And sometimes that's actually gotten me nowhere, in other words, people taking advantage of me. But like at the same time, I'm now in a different place, because you won't be able to take advantage of me, because I've learned how to actually stay into an empowerment area of my life where I'm actually very open-minded to actually accept challenge. And I'm very curious. So Jen, my partner, basically always says that I ask way too many questions. Well, it's because I'm actually curious. I don't want to basically just assume something and then immediately get defensive in this world, or feel closed-minded because I'm not being able to grow because something is challenging me. I'm actually facing that challenge with curiosity. And as a result of that, I've been kind of mirroring that to people that I actually support, because I'm telling them, hey, you know what? You can only control you. You can't control this world. As much as you see something that's actually like that bothers you, does it bother you, or are you letting it bother you? Because it's the same time, all you can do in this world is take the days that we have on this planet to actually make either a purpose or a driven impact to other people in the most positive way. If you're falling into the negativity, what happens is you get complacent, as I said, or you get stuck. You become less in action, and you become more of, hey, I'm going to become, a magnet for negativity. And as I keep getting more and more negative, I keep getting more and more heavy. So that desired result that I want so bad, I am literally being pulled downward. I can't get to where I want to be. And it's not necessarily about being positive or, loving more in this particular sense is saying, I love myself more. I take care of myself. I do things that are actually little things that actually can move me forward in life. Maybe I don't see it today. Maybe I don't see it tomorrow. But the first thing that actually is very obvious to people when they want to change is other people notice before you do. And yes. So you have to trust consistency constantly, right?
Yes. You do have consistency is a huge part of that. And I think that you made a good point when you said you got to love yourself. And that's what I found for me is that when I finally forgave myself for the mistakes that I had made, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to be an asset to a community, but I had to work on myself. I talk about the selfishness part where I had to become selfish to become selfless to help other people. Right. And it started with me loving myself and forgiving myself. And just like you're talking about there, and then we can give freely. And then that energy, I believe in the law of attraction, right? And I think you do too as well. And so that energy that we give off, others call it karma, what you give out comes back to you. Mm-hmm. And that's where we benefit. And you made me think about when we give of ourselves, that it actually helps us too. And that's what I found for myself with the chemo buddies and volunteering for them, that then I had to go through some of these experiences and lose people on the very day of their fundraiser last year. And so it helped me grow when I decided to volunteer and help others. And so, yeah, we both, it's a win-win situation. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, I wanted to get around to the consistency part, and that's about routines. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you teach as well, isn't it, John?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't put so much emphasis on routine, because anybody can actually follow point A to point B to point C to point D over and over and over and over. It's what you actually learn in between that matters. And so, there's a difference in terms of, I just had this conversation just earlier with a really wonderful woman, and she hit the nail on the head. When we talk about routines, the first thing that people actually talk about is if they want to change, they're like, oh, I'm going to try to do a different diet, or I'm going to try to go to the gym more. And that's all well and good. But first of all, you're using a negative word that's called die, and then you have a T at the end, which is called temporary. You're not looking at the bigger picture here. And what we're suffering with in this world, and hopefully we start to actually communicate a little bit better about not focusing on instant gratification anymore, because instant gratification does not actually lead to satisfaction long term.
That's a very good point.
It goes
Especially
instant. Yeah.
Coming from a guy from Southern California that wants instant gratification and wants it now and wants to be able to have it quick. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Amazon. They've taken care of that for us now, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. Good point.
So the emphasis is more on what is the easiest way for people to see wins in their life, right? What is it? That Navy SEAL officer actually made a statement at a commencement ceremony. He said, the best way to start your day is to actually win right when you get up. And he said, make your bed. And it doesn't have any significance to you when you do it, but it actually helps you to accountability so that if you have a really bad day, you come home to a made bed.
Right.
Now, if you can
if you want to change the world, make your bed. Start
exactly.
With making your bed.
Right. So now, like for me, I don't want to be a preacher. I don't want to basically preach to people and say, this is what you need to do. I don't want that. But what I want to do is I want to lead by my own actions. So when I talked to you for the first time, the first thing I said to you was, hey, did I come off as actually somebody who's trying to promote or push something to you? Because that's not me. If you look at who I am, I am the person that is what I'm doing. In other words, I live and breathe a healthy lifestyle, or I live and breathe my struggle, and I live and breathe and be honest about that, because until we are honest with ourselves, we can't keep moving forward. We're always being stuck. And I'm like a firm believer of pushing that needle forward. And it takes a little bit of time. And sometimes it's actually kind of funny because it's like a bank account. Worst place to actually put your money is in the savings account for a whole year if it's less than a certain amount of money, because it doesn't grow very much. Right. However, that's not life. Life actually gives you the ability to actually move that needle really quickly, but also move it back. But it also allows you to actually move it consistently over time. And it might actually fight you a little bit, in terms of all these different changes, because our body and our mind need to be in sync. And if you're not in sync with each other, then you have that struggle of that constant battle between physical and mental, right? And it's not until you actually understand from the perspective of others of what you are conveying, because a lot of us actually think that we're okay, we're doing okay. And then all of a sudden we actually are in a hospital bed and we don't understand why we are actually there. But yet our habits over time have built up that particular scenario.
Right. Because we've created it for ourselves.
So the same thing, when you're actually in action and you're doing something to better yourself, you might not see it. You might get frustrated with it. But I use the paper towel methodology, right? We buy a paper towel and you look at that paper towel roll and it's like massive. And you're like, well, most of us don't actually rip off one little sheet, but let's talk about life. And when we want to make changes, we keep tearing off a little sheet here and there. We, as humans, do not see that change, but it is a change and it continuously changes. And what happens is when you continuously do something on a regular basis, the mental aspect of our body actually starts to get into sync with what we're trying to do, because it doesn't want us to be present in a situation because it uses so much energy to actually be present. That's why, like, when we went through school to learn math was so frustrating for us because we had to learn how to actually like add, subtract, multiply. I never went any further than algebra, but that's okay. If you guys have, that's awesome.
I'm right there with you. I know that our stories are similar too. And yeah, it is with math.
But like what I'm saying is it took us a struggle to learn math. And then when we did, We have it built into our consciousness on how to actually do those things. So what it takes is time. And a lot of the reasons why people are not successful or they struggle in this world is because time is not something that they want, to use to actually like benefit themselves. They want to actually have it now so they have time to enjoy it. You can't do that. You have to work through something, because if you get everything, like if I handed you an awesome lifestyle right now, completely free, do you think that it would be sustainable for you? Probably not. You know why? Because you didn't earn it. You don't know what it took to actually get that. You don't know that I worked my butt off to actually struggle. Like we see a lot of people that actually like walking down the street and we're like, man, how does that person exude this type of lifestyle, but yet I'm suffering over here? What did he do wrong? And then, or you see somebody in the gym and they're just totally fit. They're totally taking care of themselves. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. So I just need to be in the gym more often. No, they're on chapter 10 while you're just turning page 1. You need to understand that their story is powerful because they did the things that you don't see, which is the work. And that's one of the things that's so hard to do with people, is to understand that the work that we do behind the scenes is what we actually get rewarded in front of the scene, right? Because we work really hard on ourselves. Like you look at all these athletes that they step up on a podium, they get a medal. I saw this thing where it's like the podium shows from the front and they're standing there and they're getting handed a medal, but you don't see what's behind them. And you see this huge cliff of all these things that they had to do. They struggled, they failed, they broke bones, they actually like had to change their diet. They had to do all these things that actually were such a struggle, but yet you only see that they're at the top. So I challenge people. I'm like, what's the top for you? Not the top for me, for you. I know where you can go because I believe in you. So I will take you where you need to go, but I want you to believe where you are. And it starts with, what is your reason that you want to change? Because that reason should be built on circumstance and conviction that you don't want to go backwards, right? You want to get to...
Sounds like, yes, defining your why.
Right.
I mean, your what is what you experience, but your why is why you're wanting to do that. And I know that you brought so many things up into my mind about patience and putting in the work, and as well the consistency, and even the thought that some people might get depressed because they see this idol and it's like, I want to be like that person, but yet they're not getting that in their life yet, and then that creates them to be depressed. Well, I'm just not good enough, and then they might go to the negative thing. And I'd like to go back to that and to the healthy lifestyles in just a minute here. I'd like to break now for just a moment here. We've got a commercial for you, and I want to share that with you. This is Total Coatings. We appreciate them. They're sponsoring the show tonight. Total Coatings is located here in Sarasota, Florida. They are bathtub refinishers, using a safe and non-toxic porcelain glaze to refinish a bathtub and give it new life and give it some positive transformational change, and instead of throwing them out. So let's go to a commercial break here, and we'll be back in just a moment.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it. It had deep pitting in it. There were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.
We're back. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you liked that commercial. I don't know whether it was playing smoothly on your end. Wasn't playing so smoothly on my end, but that's okay. Typical technical stuff, but that's okay. Every day we get the opportunity to become better, stronger, and work out the kinks, if there were any. I don't even know if there was. Okay, so we were talking with Jon Kirwin. He's a coach. We're talking with him about healthy routine and healthy lifestyles and about finding your purpose and then going into your community and helping others to be able to achieve a happy lifestyle. It's a beautiful thing. You know, I'm very impressed with you, Jon. You know, very intelligent person. I can see that you've helped a lot of people in the past as well. I'd like for you to define for the viewers about a healthy lifestyle. What would an optimal healthy lifestyle look like to you?
Well, it's pretty complicated in regards to what a healthy lifestyle is because it's an ongoing thing, right? You know, being healthy doesn't mean that you're healthy all the time. So what you got to basically understand, it's a mindset, it's an attitude, it's hard work, it's knowledge, right? But it's funny because if you just focus on knowledge, that's maybe in the alphabet, if you spell it out, it only equals 96%. If you spell out hard work, it only equals 98%. But if you spell out attitude is everything when it actually comes to change. And attitude actually comes from a mindset that you have a purpose to drive to actually be better than you were yesterday. Attitude, if you add it up in the alphabet, it actually equals 100%. So a healthy lifestyle is 100% of encompassing of the work that we actually do as a human being, right? First thing that we actually need to do to actually produce a healthy lifestyle is get the mind not attached to unconsciously incompetent decision making. Okay. The easiest way to actually describe that, as far as, you know, the mindset actually falls into two different categories: it's emotion and instinct. And if it's actually instinct, it's been built into us since we were born. Simple aspect of instincts that our brain actually uses on a regular basis. How many people can raise their hand that they actually eat breakfast at the certain time? Or how many people actually brush their teeth every morning? And do you remember when you were actually like taught to do that? You had no idea why you had to do that. You just were being yelled by your parents, brush your teeth, you got to do that, you got to do that, right? And now we're doing it on every single moment of every single day. So if something like that came into our life at the beginning of our life, and now we're actually using it as we are in the present time, it takes not just as much time, but it takes time to actually reprogram the brain to do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is basically like being more self-aware. So when you actually start to be more present, the first thing the brain does not like that, because contrary to everybody's belief, when we consume calories into our body for energy, 30% of it goes up here. And the reason why it goes up here is so that I can move my arm to point to my head, right? I move my arm, my brain said, okay, I'll let you move your arm. It's using energy, right? Because I'm making that effort. So the same thing actually happens when you're trying to do something that's going to challenge you. It's going to take some time. So what I try to do for people for a healthy lifestyle is micro-size that. Okay. And make it less of a big, huge win. And instead, like I said, consistency, constantly making it smaller. Instead of doing things at the last minute that are large and stressful, do things small all throughout the day. Do things small all throughout the year. You can totally see the difference from that, right? I said this thing about, eating and hydration has actually been the biggest thing that people actually struggle with. I've heard so many people say that they can actually drink soda, they can drink coffee, they can do all this stuff without actually ever saying how much they drink. But yet when you actually ask them how much water did they drink, they either say not enough, or I only drink when I'm thirsty. And it's just this mindset that there's this educational aspect that people do not have, which is like just as simple as water. If we drank half our body weight in water in ounces, we would actually be hands down a lot better off in our body, because we are using that source of energy and that source of sustenance that's actually necessary for our body to survive. We're made up of 50 to 60% body water, but yet we lose that all throughout the day. Right. And
especially in Florida.
Right. I bet. Yeah. You probably sweat a lot more in Florida. I would imagine that. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Right. So that's so easy. If I told somebody to actually be like, you know what, you can make a big difference if you just drink 8 ounces 8 times a day, 64 ounces of water. Oh, really? Well, I don't usually do that. I have like maybe a soda during the day because of my energy drops. I don't see how water will actually help me. Well, water actually helps with our digestive system. It helps with our skin. It helps with our joints. It makes us less stiff. It actually hydrates our organs. It doesn't cause us to have headaches, right? So there's all sorts of benefits of that. But then,
well, I think water, not to interrupt, but I will, I guess, water is so important, right? Because, I mean, it is the source of life. If simply put, everything needs water, period. And so this is why we talk about that too on Ask Dr. Jenny on Wednesdays, is because we're talking about a lot of the water out there. All the minerals and the good stuff's been stripped out. You need to put that back into it. Now, I love it because you're a health coach, right, John?
Yeah.
And so you've learned a lot about how like gut health, and I think you alluded to that earlier. Your gut health is totally correlated to your mental health and your thinking, and how that's an important factor of this healthy lifestyle as well.
It's funny that you say, it's funny that we bring that up, because I had a conversation earlier and I used the analogy that both of us being 40 years old, right?
Thanks.
That's what Florida does to you, right? It actually just keeps you young. It's like the fountain of youth. No, but like what people don't understand is that when we were younger, when we were a baby, we were born, and for whatever reason, the best information that we could have ever actually been given was our parents being told, or our mother being told, that in order for you to actually grow, you need to basically be nursing your baby 2 to 3 times, or every 2 to 3 hours. And why is that? Well, basically the baby was born as a metabolic machine. It was perfectly designed to grow. Well, we're now adults. We're not really growing anymore. In fact, a lot of us are shrinking. Maybe shrinking and getting wider. I don't know. But
is that why I had to roll the cuffs of my pants up today?
Right. So it's like, but at the same time, we've gotten so busy in our life that we've created huge gaps in that process. And even though that process was actually necessary for us to grow when we were a kid, it's still beneficial to us. And I'm not saying it has to be like this, because people can go through life and actually eat a certain way. But what I find is that if your body is slowing down metabolically, or your metabolism slowing down, your gut health is actually not really good. Your digestive system is not really good, because you're not being able to process food quickly and then dispose of what you actually don't need. Instead, we sit in that stasis of, let's just picture how disgusting that can be for our body. And we sit in those a lot of times because we're not drinking enough water. We're not having our good gut health. We're associating that with like a lot of stress in our body. And on top of that, if we're miserable in our body, we're usually miserable in life. And what happens is then we feel like we're become a victim of that. We become we victimize ourselves, or sometimes we take on the villain in our own narrative and we put ourselves as a victim. Or sometimes we're in a situation where we're trying to figure something out, and then all of a sudden, somebody swoops in and fixes that for us, and we don't learn something. So what I'm trying to say is that if we don't feel really good about ourselves, it has to start with how we take care of our body. Okay. So one of the biggest things that people do neglect, and it's not because they're neglecting it, it's just because our lifestyles are so busy, is sleep. Primary aspect of losing body fat in your world is basically to drink enough water during the day to keep you hydrated, and then be able to eat sufficiently so that you can actually naturally fall asleep at night and use that deep sleep to actually burn off that burn energy so that you can feel really good the next day. But if you're waking up in the morning and you basically feel like crap, or you're not feeling focused, or you have mental clarity issues or brain fog, that's probably a result of the fact that you're not hydrating enough, or your body is losing body water throughout the day too much because of not being able to keep your digestive system healthy. So
we have a great question here, John. Let's go to that question again on water. We have Linda Nodland. Hopefully I pronounced that. Let's bring that question up if we could. Linda says that she drinks water continuously throughout the day. Now learning about which type of water I should be drinking. I'd love for you to respond to that. I also know what I think as well. We've talked about it on the Ask Dr. Jenny show, and I've seen different stuff, and there's all kinds of bottled water. We know that, well, particularly in Florida, the water coming out of the tap is got a lot of chlorine in it. It's got a lot of bad stuff in it. Not so good for us. And then we filter it, and then we take all the minerals out. That's not so good either. So what's your recommendation, John?
Well, that's a good question, because that is actually one of the things that actually we struggle with. We think that, okay, we have a bottle of water, we're buying it at the store, that's a convenience for us. And it's actually not a convenience for us, because it's actually like we're wasting money by actually doing bottled water. But it's a safe win, in my opinion, because it's a lot better than actually drinking something that has a lot of calories, a lot of sugar, a lot of these different energy substances that actually disrupt a lot of that mechanism. So at our house, we use a Brita filter because I'm getting water in the natural ways as much as possible. So what I would actually say is, don't put so much emphasis on the water that you drink unless it's actually really dirty. Then you should be really cautious about that. But basically use a regular filter that's actually in your water. Just clean that water up. And even if it's actually not with all the minerals and stuff that you're actually getting from maybe a stream that's out in the backyard, or, if you're in nature, wow, you're very fortunate. But at the end of the day, eat really quality vegetables or foods that actually have water in them, and you will actually get hidden water as well. And it comes with those nutrients and those minerals that we're actually looking for.
Now, you've made me think about something important, particularly when you're getting to these foods that you say are good in nutrients and stuff. And I know that there's talk, or whatever it might be, I don't know, some facts that were stated, and I don't know that they're facts, but I believe the fact that the soil has been depleted of a lot of the minerals, and then they put stuff back into it, which isn't necessarily so healthy, to boost it up. So a lot of this stuff isn't even really that healthy for us. What's your answer for good, healthy vegetables to be eating?
Well, the biggest thing that is a big concern in this world is for manufacturers, people that actually are very big businesses that actually are producing food. I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but if you look around, what do you actually see the most in stores? You see aisles and aisles of processed food. What do you see as actually a primary ingredient of those foods? Corn. Why do we not actually have so much advertisement of fresh produce and deli and dairy and all this stuff that's actually really the single ingredients that, we should be actually gravitating towards? It's because it's not marketable. So to mass produce a lot of these produces, you're exactly right. They use a lot of things that actually will help speed up the process, but it also removes a lot of the nutrients from those foods. The other thing that's actually really interesting about that is maybe it's a little bit relevant, but it's the same thing that happens as well when we cook. So, for example, broccoli. Mm-hmm. If you're eating broccoli raw, great. If you're eating broccoli when you steam it, okay, let me actually tell you something. Most of the time when we eat broccoli, we don't get half of the nutrients that actually is in the broccoli because it actually does not get broken down. The broccoli itself actually takes a lot longer to actually break down. So what I've actually heard from several people that cook their broccoli, they use like apple cider vinegar to actually treat it as like the gut health that your stomach to actually break it down. But because yes, so make your broccoli, but use apple cider vinegar in when you're steaming it, so it actually acts almost like it's actually being broken down in the stomach. So now when you consume it, you're getting more of that nutrients from that. So
that's
it's
interesting.
But I mean, it's like, here's the thing. We put a lot of emphasis on food, but the first thing that we need to actually understand is it's not just the food that we really need to be concerned about, because a lot of people get so confused about calories. Calories here, they tell us that an average amount of people need, or an average, size and height and age, you just need a certain amount of calories to survive. Well, that's great, but the biggest thing that's actually the biggest struggle about that is now you have calories in somebody's head. I need to meet 2,000 calories in a day in order to actually, live a healthy lifestyle. Well, okay, where is those 2,000 calories coming from, and how much nutrients is coming in them, right? Is those calories ultra processed? Does it have a lot of flour? Does it have a lot of sugar and salt that lack our leptin in our body? Which obviously people don't understand this. Fat cells are actually good for us in the body because they're designed to tell us when we're full. But guess what tells us not when we're full? Our dopamine. And guess what we actually, as a market, if you go to the store, you see energy drinks, you see sugar drinks, you see the advertisements for our kids when we're actually coming home from school back, when we were able to go outside for school. They'd come home, those commercials that they would see, all it is basically energy drinks, sugar, soda, like all these fast foods. And it's designed to create dopamine here. Because the more you're addicted to something, the more those receptors actually start to wear down, the more you will crave it because you're not getting that addiction enough. So like you start with 1 cup of coffee with sugar and cream, and then all of a sudden you see your body actually spike and go down. So what do you usually do? Your brain says, well, I like that feeling, so get another cup of coffee. Or you hear people who are actually drinking like 6 sodas a day. Well, they started with 1, and it wasn't good enough for them because they continued to actually wear that down. So
the sugar thing's a progressive disease. No wonder I like dessert, but I know I've been trying to work on my diet. I certainly have. But it was more habit, I think, than it was anything else.
I think
dessert at dinner type thing, I guess. But that's important is where you're getting it from. I'd like to, we're winding down too close to near the end, but I tell you, you've been giving us some great information. I want you to do this for the viewers, though. I consider you a leader. I consider you a person that is cares, like you said, I'll use your word, loves people, wants people to know that you do love them and that you care about them, but that you don't want them to be overwhelmed with all these goals that are difficult to achieve. So my question to you would be, how do you define then good leadership?
Well, first of all, an effective coach actually comes off and is designed to help you come to a decision, to actually kill off your fear that when you're trying to make a decision, you need to have somebody that's actually going to try to kill off that fear, but in the most honest way. But at the same time, if you're going to be a leader, usually you need to lead by example, not by just talking to somebody and doing something, because at some point you become a false leader, which is basically an imposter. And it usually starts to actually come very quickly when you don't show up on your own health, but you're telling advice of other people. It doesn't come off with that genuinity that you have, that care and that passion, because you're not living that way. So for me, the first thing that I actually try to do is how can I feed my body, which is basically what skills can I actually learn today that's going to actually help me with my body? How can I feed my mind? How can I actually like grow and exercise that brain of mine so that I can actually do something that's actually going to be according to the goals that I actually set during the day? And a lot of us don't actually exercise the mind enough during the day, which is basically like we have this beautiful thing that has been designed that does not actually get fully capacitated, or I'm sorry, have full capacity of what the potential that we have. And I'm not going to get into like nerdiness or whatever, but I'm saying if we have just enough to actually be able to absorb new knowledge, new whereabouts, and new practice and new motivation and inspiration, and we fill that cup up full, and it starts up here, it's going to exude here. It's going to exude in the world because you're going to be living that action that way. And then the second thing, or the third thing, is basically, how do I feed my heart, right? What am I going to do today that's in servitude of others? Because here's the thing that I actually believe in my heart is that true essence of success comes from servitude to actually chase other people's dreams, not yours. And it's kind of hard to actually believe, but it's actually the best and strongest accountability that you could ever have is actually help somebody else chase something better, because it holds you accountable. Because if you're going to be a leader, like I said, a coach is actually somebody who leads by example, leads with their heart, leads with their body and their mind, and even their spirit. And how do you feed all four of those things in your life? And if you can feed all four of those things, you will actually have this opportunity that says, once you taste significance in all aspects of your life, success will never satisfy you. And that's something that I strive for. I strive for that every day that I come into my world. I'm thankful and grateful that I'm actually here to do my service and given another chance to actually serve others. But at the end of the day, I also am thankful about knowing that I did really good, but what can I do better? What can I actually do to actually make my life more efficiently used in servitude so that I can have joy in this world? And I think that if you start to actually realize that even though we have this purpose in life to actually have these specific skills, to do these certain things, we still have an obligation to take care of ourselves. So if you can find a way to actually do something that's going to benefit you, but it's directly beneficial to other people, it is the best and best, hands down, accountability you could ever have.
That's well said, John. I mean, I don't think I could have said it any better. I 100% agree with you, because the leader is by example, and he is there giving of himself to help others. That is what it is about. And so I'm glad that you explained that to the viewers, because leadership is important, and it's important to know that when we're listening to our coaches and people that we look up to, that I think that, and a super important part is acknowledgement of that other person and making them feel worthy and good about themselves as well. Very, very well said. I'd like to refer to a statement that I see that you've written here, and we'll quickly just have you address that if we can. We've got a couple minutes left here. You're working to build a health utopia called Self-Health Nation. You're trying to help people. So tell us quickly about that, and then we'll wrap this up, okay?
Yeah. So I figured, like I used it earlier, I said, if I can impact one person with my story, then I am actually making an impact in this world. But if I can actually impact one person and then have other people that can collaborate with me to actually impact others that have the same message, the same desire, then there is no reason that I have to actually be competing for that airtime, that space to be able to help people. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about my business. It's not about the people that I'm working with. It's about the impact that we have as a scope. And so at the end of the day, I would love, it's kind of funny because I'm manifesting this dream of mine to actually be on stage and talking to people, because there's been so many people that have been impacting people in a positive way because of my one story. And I'm not saying that in a bragging way. I'm just saying that I am driven to actually help fitness people, health people, people of servitude, to actually come together in an utopia that actually has a space so they don't have to fight for that opportunity to be around people. And we're all like-minded, and we're all focusing on trying to help make an impact in this world. Because here's the thing, I'm only one person. I cannot change the direction all by myself. And I have people that are actually in my mentorships that are actually have told me the exact same thing. It's based on helping people in large masses to show that people are not needing to actually feel stuck. And so when you have people in all different professions that are actually very focused on this message to change the world one habit at a time, and they want to do that on their own, and they want to actually then collaborate with people and have that audience, that's going to be a great thing. So
that's wonderful. Thank you so very much. I'm so glad that I saw you on Tamara's broadcast as a service hero. You are serving the community in a positive way, Jon, and we appreciate you for doing that. I want to thank all of the viewers for joining us this evening. Remember to come back and join us 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Ask Dr. Jenny. We'll be talking about some serious specifics from a doctor about some natural alternatives to other types of choices that there are out there to get us healthy, and to talk about, building our immune system, which is so critically important. So thank you, everybody. We're just going to close with a quick video. We appreciate you. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.